So it's time to close out my position-by-position preview of this 2015 NBA free agent class by taking a look at the big men. Oh, the beloved big men, the centers in this year's free agency class. Now, again, as with some of the other positions, there are names out there, but the amount of players that are actually, for all intents and purposes, available aren't that many. Although I think in terms of the bigger names at the center position, there's more potential for movement to different teams than there were with other positions. Now, obviously, to me anyways, and I think most everybody, arguably the best center in the NBA is Marc Gasol, and that clearly makes him the best center available on the free agent market. With that said, though, where else is he really going to go? I think he likes it there in Memphis. I think Memphis loves to have him. I think Memphis is a great fit for him. They can pay him more money than anybody else. Marc Gasol isn't going anywhere. So it doesn't even necessarily make a whole lot of sense to include him on this list of free agents because where the hell is he going to end up other than Memphis? Get paid, brother, get paid. But then we look at somebody like a DeAndre Jordan. And while the Clippers can pay him more money than anybody else, all this talk about there being some friction and perhaps a rift between him and Chris Paul. He doesn't like the fact that he's a number 3 option there. Chris Paul doesn't like the fact that DeAndre Jordan is such a buster when it comes to free throw shooting. There could be something to it, and DeAndre Jordan could potentially be on the move in free agency, especially when the Clippers look at it and they say, we've already paying Chris Paul max money. We're paying Blake Griffin max money. Do we really want to pay DeAndre Jordan max money? Because if we do, that basically means we have to ride with what we ride with, and we can't even get to the Western Conference Finals, let alone the NBA Finals, with the current nucleus that we already have. And it could be one of those instances where for the Clippers, it may very well be ultimately addition by subtraction. Because if they allow a DeAndre Jordan to go, they might be able to bring in somebody like a Tyson Chandler and pay Tyson Chandler less to do some of the things DeAndre Jordan did, not maybe quite to the level of a DeAndre Jordan, and for a shorter period of time. You look at DeAndre Jordan, though, former second-round pick. He's gotten to a point where he's going to get himself max money. I applaud guys like this. They didn't sit there and piss and moan about being second-round picks when they probably should have been at least late first-round picks to begin with. He went out there, he worked his ass off, and now he's about to get paid, and God bless him. In terms of the team that makes the most sense, you've heard some talk about the Los Angeles Lakers, and if they miss out on a guy like a LaMarcus Aldridge, DeAndre Jordan is most certainly in play for them. Especially with a guy like Julius Randle coming back off of his broken leg that caused him to miss pretty much all of his rookie year. They might view a guy like DeAndre Jordan as a good fit to play next to him, although I'm not 100% certain about that. But the Lakers will have plenty of cap space. DeAndre Jordan, I think, likes the city of Los Angeles. So what better way to stick it to the Clippers than to sit there and stay in the building and just play for the Lakers in the Staples Center? Just a thought. But you'll hear a lot of talk about the Dallas Mavericks as well. And again, the Mavericks will most certainly make plenty of sense. Will they have the financial flexibility to be able to pay DeAndre Jordan max or close to max money? Ultimately, time will tell. Maybe the Mavericks will be able to sell him on the idea of, Dirk is not going to be Dirk forever. You've got Chandler Parsons there, but here, even if you're a number 3 option, you're a number 3 option short term, maybe at some point a number 2 option, but you will at least have more opportunities on the offensive end than what you get with the Clippers, and that might be something that has a lot of appeal to DeAndre Jordan, especially if he is somebody that doesn't like Chris Paul and he doesn't like his utilization by the Clippers. What better way to sit there and get back at the Clippers than go to another team in the Western Conference and be able to play him several times a year? So it's possible. It'll be really interesting to see where DeAndre Jordan ends up. If he wisens up and realizes the Clippers can pay him more money than anybody else, then that's probably where he needs to stay. Otherwise, the Lakers are a distinct possibility, but I think at the end of the day, Dallas might want him more than anybody else, and that might be what sends DeAndre Jordan over the edge. I think Brook Lopez, even though he's a free agent because he opted out, he'll end up back in Brooklyn. That's a team that's probably going to try to move Joe Johnson and or Darren Williams as they try to go with Brook Lopez and Thaddeus Young in the front court, along with a guy like Chris McCullough. But I expect Brook Lopez fully to be retained by the Nets because while he's limited as a defender and as a rebounder, he is still one of the best offensive big men in the NBA. Center that I fully expect to be on the move is Greg Monroe from the Detroit Pistons. It's always been kind of an odd fit for him because at one point in time they had him, Josh Smith, and Andre Drummond. Then once they sent Josh Smith packing, they still had Andre Drummond. Basically, they were playing Greg Monroe out of position the past couple of years. I think it's time to get him into a situation where he can play the five, where he actually belongs, and he can go to a team that will be able to utilize him more. And a team like the Knicks, to me, screams out as the best situation for him. They can pay him a lot of money. All the while, the Knicks get somebody whose best basketball could be ahead of him as he's only 25 years of age. He'll seem to fit the triangle pretty well. More of a traditional low post center that a Phil Jackson would value in that triangle offense. So I think a guy like Greg Monroe ends up leaving Detroit, and I think the best option for him is the Knicks, and that's probably where he'll end up. In terms of the role players, I've talked about Tyson Chandler and the fact that he could end up with the Clippers if the Dallas Mavericks end up signing DeAndre Jordan. If they don't, I would expect fully Tyson Chandler to re-sign with the Dallas Mavericks. However, if DeAndre Jordan does sign with the Mavericks, I don't think it's a guarantee that Chandler ends up with the Clippers. Well, a team that could be one to watch in this situation for him and a guy like Enes Kanter as well could be the Milwaukee Bucks. When you look at the Bucks, one thing they could desperately use is a big man with some size and length. In the case of Tyson Chandler, he has some familiarity with their head coach Jason Kidd, so there might be a comfort level there. He might see some appeal to moving back to the Eastern Conference to bring a veteran presence and leadership and bring his defensive skills down low to a team that has plenty of talent out on the wings that is very young and looks like they are definitely on the upswing. And then in the case of Enes Kanter, I would assume, based off of some of the moves the Oklahoma City Thunder have already made, that it's well within their plans to want to retain Enes Kanter. You're looking at a big man with some offensive skill who's only 23 years of age, but again, a team like Milwaukee could come beating down his door as well. And then you've also got Robin Lopez too. For all the talk about LaMarcus Aldridge potentially leaving Portland, there's a chance that Robin Lopez could leave too. In a situation like Boston seems to make quite a bit of sense, and you've heard a lot of reports that Boston really values him. And from a Portland standpoint, Robin Lopez gives you more value when you have a LaMarcus Aldridge than when you don't. And do you really want to overpay for a Robin Lopez if you don't have a LaMarcus Aldridge? So in that case, I think it's very possible that a Robin Lopez could leave. He'll have quite a bit of interest, I think, but ultimately might end up with the Boston Celtics. And if they end up with Robin Lopez and Tobias Harris in this offseason, things are looking good again for the Boston Celtics. But that's my thoughts on it. But I'm looking forward to free agency officially starting tomorrow, the negotiating window. And like I told you before, in the overall free agency preview, is that as deals are talked about or discussed or come to fruition and happen, I'll be giving my thoughts on the good ones and most certainly the bad ones as well.